real estate industry is changing. So there's been a ruling in Missouri that I think is going to change the real estate landscape for sellers and buyers and real estate agents going forward. Make sure y'all hit a like for the algorithm, subscribe to the channel, and turn on your notifications. Hey, y'all got to keep me in your prayers because Anton is multitasking over here in these streets. You know what I'm saying? I'm out here. I got the work laptop typing feverishly, responding to people asking me and DMing me and hitting me on Microsoft Teams. Bling, bling, bling. Got me on WebEx responding to people, and I'm still running the show. All money in, no money out. Let's continue to run it up. Let me show y'all what's going on over in real estate right now.
Now to the class action ruling that could change the way Americans buy and sell homes. A federal jury in Missouri on Tuesday found that the National Association of Realtors liable for artificially inflating commissions and awarded plaintiffs $1.8 billion in damage.
Wait. $1.8 billion seemed like a lot of money. And I have not reviewed this yet, but $1.8 billion seemed like a lot of money. We need to mine this out and see where this is going, ladies and gentlemen.
CBS's Carter Evans takes a look at what it means for the average consumer.
I think that this is going to drastically lower what commission rates are.
Reading super
Jared
chat
Bright's
shortly.
long legal battle with the real estate industry began when he sold his St. Louis home back in 2017. He was frustrated that he had to pay a commission to the buyer's broker.
Certainly, I didn't understand why I was paying for someone who I'd never met, will never meet, and wasn't doing anything for me.
Here's how it works under the current system. For a $500,000 home, the seller agrees to pay a commission, typically 5 to 6% of the home's selling price.
And half of the commission goes to the real estate agent on the buyer side, and the other half goes to the real estate agent on the seller side. On top of that, you're also paying taxes, closing fees, and so on and so forth. And this is one of the reasons why I tell people a lot of times is that they don't really take into consideration the true cost of total of home ownership. We only use general figures to justify our purchases. When you sell that home, you're paying 3% over there, 3% over there, paying closing costs, concessions, taxes, depending on when you bought the house and, you know, how you set it up and stuff like that. And people don't really take into consideration the true cost of home ownership. In most instances, historically, I think we need to go back over the data and recalculate the numbers. Historically, what has happened is if you don't live in a house for at least 10 to 15 years, somewhere between 12 and 15 years, then you're not even getting back or you're not even getting ahead as far as what you would have been doing if you'd have been renting for the same amount of time. If you don't live in a house and you've been paying a mortgage for the last 30 years, including the maintenance, upkeep, property taxes, PMI, if you only put 3.5% down, and then you got to pay the seller's fees and the commissions and all of this stuff, you're getting hosed. It's literally a racket. Everything that we see happening in society today is a racket. I'll explain more shortly.
That is then split between the seller's agent and the buyer's agent. Sellers have to pay the commission in order to have their home included on the multiple listing service, or MLS, a vast property database that feeds into popular sites like Zillow.
It doesn't sound like that radical of a concept. You pay for the person who's working for you.
Bright's attorney Michael Ketchmark brought the class action lawsuit against the National Association of Realtors and some of the largest real estate brokers in the country.
What we proved was the National Association of Realtors has joined in a conspiracy with the two of the largest corporate real estate brokers to use the system to fix prices.
The court determined the current commission model makes it difficult for sellers and buyers to negotiate lower fees at a time when technology makes it easy for anyone to access real estate listings online. The National Association of Realtors plans to appeal the verdict and says its rules serve in the best interests of consumers.
So even though it's a $1.8 billion ruling, first of all, the lawyers is going to get any of it if they get anything at all, because now it's got to go into the appeals process. But they're not suing for money. They're suing for changes in the way that real estate companies are doing business as far as the buyer's commissions and the seller's fees. And the only reason, I believe that it's only two reasons why this is happening in the first place. Because first of all, again, you got to remember that it always comes back down to the money. But the first reason that we're doing it or we're having a conversation about it is because once everything gets tumultuous, it gets a little bit difficult, things start changing, we start having different conversations. Once something starts to become difficult within an industry, people start mining out why they have to do something or why they have to start doing something in the first place. If everybody is making money, chances are you don't really have a conversation about it. I'll give you an example of the mindset, the psyche that plays out when people goes about doing things, right? I'll give you an example. You win the lottery. Let's say you win that $1 billion lottery that it regularly goes up to, and y'all keep imagining and dreaming, ooh, if I hit the lottery, I'ma just live off the principle. Lying to yourself, you're going to change everything you thought you would do if you decided to hit the lottery. But when you hit the lottery, and it's say $1 billion, right? But then you really, after you get the one lump sum payment, you get $425 million. Ain't nobody sitting here asking no questions and going back and saying, man, what happened to the other $575 million that we could have? You just happy. You like, man, I ain't have zero. I got $425 million. I don't care if it's taxes, schools, fees, all of this stuff. You going to take the lump sum payout and you going to say, you know what? We about to ball till we fall, ball till we fall, ball till we fall. So when everybody is making money and everybody is coming up, it then is nothing to ask questions about. Here's the other caveat about it. We didn't have the level of technology that we have today to start to upend a lot of these systems that have historically always done this. You've always depended on the MLS system. You've always depended on real estate agents. You've always depended on this vast database in order to reach buyers, realtors, all of that, right? Now, people are rethinking everything because technology is making it easier for us to be able to tap into our audience and get what we want. So basically, you eliminate the middleman. You save yourself $15,000, $30,000 in being able to do it yourself if you're selling a $500,000 house. Now you got Zillow, Trulia, Redfin, right? You got word of mouth, you got Instagram, all of these, Facebook Marketplace. If people are looking for something and you're able to connect with them, you only need one buyer in order to get there, right? You got wholesalers that's calling people every single day. Hey, man, you want to sell your house and all of that, right? You have all of these leads and courses and stuff that's teaching you about the real estate industry. And Anton over here on Patreon, and I'm actually showing you the process of what building a house looks like when people never really considered building a house outside of the traditional way in which they would get a construction loan and then convert that over into a mortgage. Instead, we're just paying as we go when contractors come in, and we're building it from scratch, and we're hiring our own contractors, which is significantly cheaper than the way in which you're used to hiring a builder or getting a construction loan and then getting an architect. Like, it's way different than what people think it is, but they don't start to evaluate what that looks like or solve for that problem of how they can save money until the market or the industry becomes upended, right? And so my point is that once technology gets introduced, people start to question technology and money, meaning that it's easier for you to be able to connect with your buyer. And then on top of that, you start to have a conversation about, why am I giving this extra money over? Because it's hurting my pockets and it's not really benefiting me as much as I thought that it would. People start to make different decisions or they start to question a system that they've been historically depending on for a long time, and they want change. And so that's what you see happening today. This lawsuit is not necessarily about money. It's about change. This lawsuit is not about money. It's about change. It's about rethinking how you're doing business in every single industry, not just real estate. I'm talking about manufacturing, semiconductor chip shortages. You see it happening inside of the manufacturing process when it comes to the automakers. Now, where we used to, and what Elon Musk and Tesla is doing in so many different facets of the game is transformational. When we used to segment out the body parts in order to make it cheaper for you to fix your car if you got into an accident, they're now building it by the entire frame. Well, one of the reasons why that is because A, it's cheaper in the manufacturing process for them to stamp out a whole basically car and then put it together and then eliminate the internal combustion engine, because you basically save tens of thousands of parts by having less than 100 parts that goes into the battery pack. Instead of having a whole engine, you make it lighter, all of this stuff, right? Technology forces people, and this is why I keep telling people that the electric car vehicle industry even if it's in a lull, it's coming. It's coming. Worldwide adoption, getting your legislators on board in order to support the infrastructure needed for it. Gas stations are going to be upended over the next 20 years unless they convert over into a different business model, right? It's the same thing that happened with taxis versus Ubers and Lyft. Everything is going to be disrupted. Every single thing is going to be disrupted as long as you continue to have the technological advances that allow for you to question it or eliminate the middleman for you to be able to do it yourself.
Scary and it's daunting, and so we'll see. It's a big shakeup.
LA realtor Pamela Rich says a shift in fees could put homes out of reach for some. Who could this impact the most?
I think the buyers. Although the seller may have some financial relief, the buyer is now the one that's going to absorb the cost for the buyer's fees. That's a huge shift in the industry.
Now, it's unclear if banks will allow buyers to fold those fees into their mortgage loans. Of course, that comes at a time when interest rates are extremely high. Similar class action lawsuits are in the works across the country. Nora?
Now, if buyers start to, or sellers start to say, hey, which is valid, is actually valid. If sellers start to say, okay, wait a minute, why am I paying a 3% fee to your agent and they're not even working on my behalf? Then the buyer, because it's only two things that can happen in this situation. A, the buyer is going to have to pay their portion of the fee and they're going to have to roll that into the mortgage because nobody is going to be paying an additional $15,000 on a $500,000 house. They're already trying to put 20% down in order to avoid PMI. And they're going to have to pay an additional $15,000 on top of that. They're going to probably roll that into the mortgage, which is going to cost y'all more money in interest over the life of the loan because you then pay for the house 2 to 3 times more in the interest, depending on what the interest rate is by the time you pay that house off. That's either A, right? Or B, people are going to become more savvy and start eliminating the middleman and start going without agents, which then is going to drive more money out of that particular process. And it's going to upend the real estate agent industry and economy. And they are already reeling. So things is changing, man. It's evolving. It's absolutely evolving. If I want to go and get a buyer, right, or not a buyer, a renter, right, for more of my properties, which is one of the reasons why I'm so incentivized to keep people in the properties. I don't have time to be able to vet people out effectively myself all the time, right? And so if I want to go and get a buyer, let's say you hire a real estate agent, usually they charge a month's rent in order to get somebody in there. So I lose out on that money, but then I can keep more of that money in my pocket. But what's the benefit of it, right? If it's an exchange, then I have to benefit from it just as much as you have.